Welcome back to the Good Green Home Show with Rich and Shawna. Today we have a special guest. We actually have an actual certified arborist. We have Scott Polster with Forever Green Company.
Welcome. And the crowd goes wild.
Thanks for having
Woo!
me. It's an honor, privilege.
Well, thanks for being here, because I think trees are a very, very important thing, and an arborist is actually, what is the definition of an arborist, Scott?
Tree specialist, just a fancy way of saying a tree guy.
So, yeah.
He's a tree guy. I know a guy.
He's the guy. And
Those that study arboriculture, that really narrows it down, right?
So you guys study
No.
trees, but you take care of trees, and you're also on a local tree board and a member of the Tree Steward program as well. What's that, the Indiana Tree Steward program?
Yeah, we just, someone that works for you, your nursery manager, Brian Angerman, he and I got involved in that last year, went through a course called Tree Stewards, and now we're doing more with that. With that, we have to do volunteer work. I think it's like 15 hours annually we have to satisfy to maintain that status. It's like a crash course in arboriculture in 2 days. As much as you can learn about trees, they force down your throats. And
So when did you
2 days'
learn,
time.
when did you get the bug? You know the bug, the one that made you addicted to trees and wanting to be an arborist.
Well, it started in college. I got a degree in forestry, Purdue, and I wanted to be a conservation officer, but decided to get more into trees and went and took the certified arborist exam, and been playing with trees ever since. And
How many
that's
years have you been
a
an
few
arborist?
decades now. I've lost count of how many years it is, but we're
Decades.
talking
Closer to 30?
decades
You
now.
look so
Yeah.
young, though.
Well,
Come
thanks.
on.
No, ancient. Yeah, just a lot of fish oil. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot we can talk about trees. I have a personal problem with the tree. So, I'm the one, I want to jump in with the first question. That all right with you?
That's fine.
Okay, we're going for it.
I'm going to grill you now.
I planted a Japanese maple several years ago, and I planted it on top of a berm that is heavy clay soil. I've since learned that clay is not always the best for Japanese maple. It's an understory area, so there is shade. And then last winter we had minus 30. And that was, so now what I have remaining is a half of a Japanese maple. It has leaf on the bottom, but not on the top part. So we had to cut off the top limbs that were dead. And now my question is, do I try to save it, or should I just go out and get another understory plant that might be a better substitution?
Well, you're getting towards the 50% rule. When you get down to about half of what's left of the plant of the tree,
Yes.
and you have to make that judgment call on whether you want to retain or continue your efforts.
It's definitely less than 50%. So
and
I'm
sure
thinking
was
it needs to go.
a weather-related trauma,
Oh,
what we
yeah.
call an abiotic disorder, because they're usually pretty good when it comes to pest issues. They usually don't have too many. But I'd probably reassess this spring, see how it leaves out. If most of it's
If it
coming
does,
back, you may want to nurture, encourage.
What are other
Otherwise-
understory trees and shrubs that might be evergreen or interesting for a shady area?
Well, if I'm going to start with the evergreens, I'm probably going to start with hemlock.
I love hemlock.
The one that we have regionally, Suga canadensis, that's eastern hemlock.
Eastern, I'm gonna write
They
that
had the
down.
potential to get enormous. You get out towards the East Coast, they can get really big. But out here, they tend to stay a little bit on the smaller side. Another one that everybody gets them are the yews. Yews are
Yeah.
always okay for shady
Yeah.
areas.
But
you
a
know.
yew is so boring.
So played out. I like the hemlock idea. I think
But I
that's
mean,
a
those
good-
are your evergreens when it comes to lower light, shady areas. They tend to do better there. And then beyond that, when you talk shade and you talk slope, I immediately think of what's called shadblow, but that's a deciduous. Also goes by the name of amelancher, serviceberry.
Serviceberry.
I know it is
It's got several.
serviceberry.
Juneberry is another.
You were
There's probably
t-
more common names for amelancher than.
You were talking
other
in
plants.
Latin, and I
Yeah,
totally
as
lost
soon as you say
me.
serviceberry,
Serviceberry.
a common name.
That's a
Yeah,
common one.
then your eyes
Well,
light up.
serviceberry attracts birds as
Right.
well, right? So that would be
Exactly.
very good for the environment.
and I like to eat them too, so it's also edible for us.
That makes
Isn't it very high in antioxidants, the serviceberry berries from it?
That I don't know. Now you've just
But I love the idea of
something
contributing
else.
back to the back
Oblivious
to the
to.
environment.
We're gonna get back to you on that.
Yeah, any kind of berry, generally speaking, is better for bird protection. They also birds like to hide in middle of shrubs that are heavy woody because it's protection for
Right.
them.
They like viburnums, I think, around here a lot. And there's another berry one.
Blueberry viburnum. Ooh,
Cranberry and-
yeah, all of those. They're neat.
Well,
Well-
you're talking plants with escape/concealment cover. Service berry is probably not ideal for that, but it does have the fruit, so that's a draw from that angle. But I immediately start thinking of your rosaceae members, the crabs, the hawthorns, hawthorns especially. But then you were talking about low light, so
Yeah, it is low light, and I have.
I love the
allergy
hemlock
to
idea.
I have allergies to flowering plants. I think the hemlock is probably the smartest choice of all those.
Okay.
So you convinced me. I'm going
Eastern
with the
hemlock,
Eastern
probably.
hemlock. We're going to give
if
it a
it doesn't
try.
have a future come spring after you've reassessed and
I'm gonna-
looked at
I'm
that
gonna cut
Japanese
it.
maple. Well, I
Yeah.
didn't say to do that.
No, but he has like a head. It looks like a little person standing there now instead of a tree. It's pitiful. So we need an improvement. A lot of trees are coming down throughout the Midwest because of the ash borer.
Emerald ash borer. EAB. It's a menace.
It is a menace. We've given up on our trees. The city actually came and took the tree that was in the right of way. That was our ash, and I replaced it with an oak. It's a bur oak because I wanted to do something that would help wildlife. But do you have other suggestions that are great replacements?
Well, I actually brought an article in because I thought we might touch on it today. This was put out by Beth Botts. She's with the
Oh, love
Morton
Beth.
Arboretum.
Yes.
She writes for Chicago papers. I think this is the Chicago Trib.
Good.
This is titled "Prevent Maple Monopoly with More Tree Diversity," and she actually lists 6 trees as replacements.
Instead of just planting a red maple in your parkway.
Yeah, because
Exactly,
we have
'cause we're
so
trying to-
many of these.
Yeah, red maple and Calorie pear, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's a ton of
Oh,
them
the
now,
pears.
too. So we're afraid between the red maple and the Calorie pear, we might have our next epidemic.
Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you what, there are some problems already popping up with the pear. I believe it's blight.
Right, bacterial fire blight, which is a real bad problem that's going to be going on year 3 now in our area.
So diversity is it. Now listen, Beth, and hi, Beth. She and I are friends, and I love her work. She suggests the hackberry, the European beech, ginkgo, which is beautiful. I love the yellow leaves in the fall. Kentucky coffee tree, and a London plane tree. Oh,
Plane tree,
plane
yeah.
tree, and Ohio buckeye. Now I did a lot of research this year on a London plane tree.
I love that plant.
It's
fast
interesting.
growing, big leaf.
The only problem I've experienced with the London plane tree in my research is that if you have asthma in your household, like heavy asthma, London plane tree drops a lot of stuff. In London, literally in the city of London, people are complaining because they're overplanted and not as diverse there. And so if you have asthma, be cautious of the London plane tree. However, all the other trees, especially the ginkgo, I love that tree. I think it's a brilliant choice.
I gotta say, I'm not a fan of the Kentucky coffee tree. I think that's the one of the
Wow.
one of the ugliest trees ever.
Is it ugly?
And now I'm offending
I
the
don't know.
tree.
No,
But
not
it's-
at all, but it's been plugged so much over the past
But it
2
tolerates
years now.
pollution and it creates shade.
Have you ever seen that planted on parkways before?
It starts out as a stick. Well, ginkgo's kind of like that,
Because
too.
I haven't, yeah, and I'm like, that is
Yeah.
the nastiest looking tree. What are they doing? They're trying to
tree
beautify
judger.
the place.
Right, and some people don't like the fact that they've got that real nasty seed pod, too, that can
It
puncture
is.
tires.
I like the
is.
European
So strong.
beech. That's
That's a
cool.
good choice.
Ginkgos are awesome.
I'm surprised she didn't say oak because of the wildlife diversity
Well,
issue.
I think she's
but-
trying to go with the like the trees that you're not going to just automatically jump to that conclusion. Yeah, I think buckeye trees are really cool, and I don't think they're used enough in the Chicagoland area because obviously it's an Ohio State tree, and you got the reigning national champions here in 2015 college football, Ohio
Oh,
State
no.
Buckeyes.
Oh, the drama. Yes.
But it's not utilized as much. I mean, I know in my garden center we sell maybe a half a dozen buckeye trees a year, which tells me that's not promoting that into the diversity. And we sell tons of maples and pears, which we have to because of the demand, and the landscapers want those trees. But we want to promote the diversity. So yeah, these are some great
So
options.
what Scott's saying basically is the more diverse plantings that we make, the less chance for disaster. The EAB situation in the emerald ash borer devastated whole cities, and we lost entire cities worth of trees.
And you're saying past tense, but it's obviously ongoing.
going
It's
on.
present, and it's continuing to spread. Now it's getting out of control in Minnesota. But we're fighting it still here. Some trees people are saving. A lot of them are opting not to save. Most of the towns are not making any
No.
attempts to save them.
Because,
replacing.
Okay, so let me ask you. I mean, there are treatments for EAB, but they are chemical oriented. And so you
Correct.
treat this tree chemically, then it extends its life like 3 or 4 years. And then you stop treating it. And then doesn't it get attacked again?
It's
or is
it's
that
very
inaccurate?
expensive to
Yeah.
to treat.
There's a window of
the-
opportunity when you discontinue. The most popular, most effective treatment is the trunk injection with triage, and that lasts for 2 years. They're working on a formulation that's supposed to last for 3 years, but if you go and you do that and you discontinue it after a couple of years, that opens up the window again
And they're
for
gonna come back.
the beetles.
Yeah.
So
And
I
I don't
think
know if
this-
they probably can't see this, but we actually brought a vial in that has the
Oh,
beetle.
tiny little guy.
Yeah,
Look at
and
him.
and the larvae in there, but
Oh, yuck.
both life stages are in that vial there.
And
Yeah,
and
he's
what's the
very
sign
ugly.
to tell if you have an ash tree if it has emerald ash borer? What are you going to see first? What's gonna
Usually
be the
starts
first
as dieback in the top of the tree and the
Okay.
top of
Mm-hmm.
the crown. And then you start looking more closer to the trunk and the limbs. You start seeing evidence of woodpecker activity.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years back, I had a forester in LaGrange, Illinois, indicate that that's what they were using to mark the trees that were being removed.
Watching the
They indicate-
woodpeckers.
The woodpeckers are indicators of the presence of the emerald ash borer. And the trees that are showing a lot of injury from woodpeckers,
It's
they're
dinner.
marking as X's
We need
for
more
removals.
more woodpeckers to
But
eat
then-
all of the larvae.
Yeah. And then when they get into the advanced stages of infestation, after a couple of years of them building up in the trees, then they get these what we call epicormic proliferations at the base of the tree. There's a bunch of shoots that come off the bottom.
My husband was
that's-
excited when that happened because he's like, "Look, it's coming back," and it looks like it's coming back, but it absolutely is not. And I'm like, "No,
Right.
that's its death dance.
Exactly.
It is on its way out."
How about
Exactly.
the emerald ash borer's impact on Major League Baseball?
That's a good point. Louisville Slugger, that's white ash, Fraxinus
Really?
All the
americana.
baseball bats were made from ash.
Well, they actually have a big plantation, I guess you could call it, out east, and I think so far they're okay. I think the boards have not made it there yet, but they are concerned. I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
If it gets to a point where it starts to show up around there, they're probably gonna.
That'll be
Switch
the
to
end of
get
that.
wood.
efforts. Well, they'll probably try to save them because here's the other thing. We're thinking down the road. We know that this problem's from the Orient. They're already starting looking to cultivate varieties that have Oriental
Resistant.
ash.
Yeah.
And they're thinking if they can cross that with an American persuasion, we might have down the road ashes that are going to be able to tolerate these guys. Because in China, where the beetles are native, it's not a problem there. They only attack the stressed specimens there. But
Why
here,
do they
don't
attack
differentiate.
everything?
Probably because there's no predator, or its natural predator probably lives in China, I would maybe assume.
Parasitic wasps, I guess, are something they're working on here that they brought in from over there. But the other thing is,
It's a downward
the trees
spiral.
there have co-evolved over
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking, millions of years of evolution. The trees there can tolerate them, but ours here,
Well, they're new. We've
they're
we've
not
just
familiar with this problem, so they don't know how to fight it.
we've planted them like crazy in every city from here to there. So
Exactly,
Well, the
just like
Midwest
American
is-
elm,
yeah.
same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, after we started to lose American elm, the Dutch elm disease, guess what we started planting? Ash.
Yeah.
exactly.
Now people are saying we need to revisit American elm again because
Yeah,
now we have
heard that.
varieties that can fight Dutch elm.
A lot of the landscape architects are specking out some of these Dutch elm resistant elm species or cultivars like Homestead and trying to think of some of the other ones. Homestead comes to mind. I know Michael Durr was promoting Homestead elm a few years back, and I know a lot of architects definitely started throwing those onto designs.
And then here's something else back to when we were talking about the different trees.
Yes.
It starts with where you're going to get them and what they have in stock. Because, I always get this question, and it's like, well, where are you going to go? Well, if you're going to go to Alsip, well, you'll want to see what they have and start with that. Because we might say, you know what, look in the European Beach, you may not have them there.
Find a London plane tree, and then you can't find one.
So it starts with that, and then you expand.
Exactly.
And you'll want to do homework too, because you don't want to just wing it or just go off of what we're saying.
Right. Now, I do agree with maple monopoly, but I still think that the Japanese maple is going to be a favorite because of the colors that it offers for everyone in the suburban community. I mean, that is a big one. But get rid of the big ones, man.
She's probably referring to like just your red maples, and obviously
Yes,
silver
the big
maples
ones.
are kind
Silver.
of not. Well, you can't really buy a silver maple anymore.
Oh, they're
but the
horrible.
most commonly sold maple on the market today is the autumn blaze maple, which is an Acer rubrum, which technically it's a red maple, but it's a cross between a silver maple and a red maple. But they don't have the helicopter seed pods and the invasive roots. They do have the fast growing
So it goes fast.
genetic, yeah. And then it's got that beautiful red. So
We
but
have
those are everywhere
We
now.
have a red maple in the front lawn, and which is horrible, by the way. But why it's so horrible? We had several years of drought, and we had an average number of helicopters. Then we had a good year with lots of rain, and then what happened is that maple became pregnant with. I couldn't even see the leaves. There were so many helicopters. So the year of having all that water must have been good for it from a production standpoint. And when it let go this spring, I literally dug with a shovel off of my driveway millions of maple helicopters. And it was. I've never seen anything like it. Is that
So
common?
it was a bumper. Well, a lot of tree species have what we call bumper crops. Oaks are known for that. But I think what's happened over the past couple of years is we've had significant alterations in the weather and just some
environment.
precipitation over the past couple. This past year was actually pretty good from a rainfall standpoint. Year before wasn't. So there could have been even something as minor as that. And a lot of the maples were stressing just making the change from a dry to a wet.
Yes.
And they could be.
We looked at it, I'm like, my God, it's
Yeah.
pregnant. You could just see no leaves. It was amazing. And worst maple, I pulled thousands of maple babies out of my garden. It was just
Sometimes
horrible.
stuff will go to seed and flower when it's stressed because it needs to reproduce. It has that natural need for reproduction. Sometimes growers will stress plants to get flower production.
Absolutely.
And it's because it's actually the defense mechanism of the plant saying, I need to pass on my genes to the next generation, and the flowering is the reproductive process, or
in order to do
yeah.
that. Listen, if somebody wants to replace a tree because of EAB or some other reason, how do you recommend, how deep of a hole do they dig around the plant? How do you plant a tree?
And that's probably one of the biggest problems I see is right from the very beginning with the installation. And I say, if it's a ball and burlap, you want to actually check and see where the root color transitions from the trunk to the roots, because you want to make sure that's flush. Now, if it's a hard clay, you may want to adjust a little bit so it's not going to be sitting in water. But it always starts with trying to determine where that root collar is, and then trying to play it as close to flush with the ground to that as
To the
possible.
root collar.
And then opening up the root ball too, because that's the other thing.
Oh, the
Most of
landscaper
the time, they're
said
all
not to do that,
bound
but
up.
that is, don't
You're
leave
forcing
them
the tree to
bald.
play Houdini.
Yeah, I see landscapers not, leaving the rope on, and also the burlap on the trunk that was used to protect the tree trunk in shipping.
Oh.
And I seen Parkway, like median trees, 2-3 years after they're planted, and then those trees actually started to die away because it kept moisture in there. It softened
held
the
it
wood.
all.
It invited disease and insects to get in easily, and it was like, man, you guys don't know what you're doing because obviously.
So clear the root ball. It's really important. So we are at the end of our segment, Scott, already.
Yeah, we
That
could
was
talk
so
about trees
fast.
forever.
I
Time
love
flies.
trees. I
I
love
thought
trees.
this was going to be all day, all night.
With cocktails.
We're gonna have some drinks for you over there.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. All right, this was Scott Polster, certified arborist and tree steward on the Good Green Home Show. Stick around after these messages. We'll be right back.
lawn being ruined by moles and voles? Bonide has the solution. Bonide Mole Max is an effective repellent to use against moles, voles, rabbits, gophers, groundhogs, squirrels, skunks, and other burrowing animals. The environmentally friendly Mole Max formulation makes it a great product to apply in areas where children and pets play. Just apply 3 or 4 times per year to send nuisance animal pests away. If your lawn needs some repair from mold damage, use Mole Max RX with Lawn Revitalizer. This will help repair your lawn while repelling the moles and voles. Bonide's Mole Max and Mole Max RX are available in a granule and easy spreader application or in a convenient 5-pound shaker applicator for flower or vegetable gardens. Bonide products are family made in America. Bonide Mole Max Mole and Vole Repellent is available at your local hardware store, garden center, or farm feed store, or go to bonide.com for a retailer near you. This product is not for sale in Indiana.
Alsip Home and Nursery's trained staff of certified horticulturists and organic gardening gurus are the local experts for promoting sustainable, healthy living throughout the community. Our green team can turn even the most inexperienced gardener's thumb green. Alsip Home and Nursery features Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana's largest selection of plants and organic gardening supplies. Look no further than Alsip Home and Nursery's green team.